BS.
Well, la-di-da, we are back. It's your lovable baby boy, Brank, back from the dead, ready to break some bread, bringing a show that's not for the memas and the papas, okay? And I'm coming back with somebody who I am bringing back from the dead, the Mr. Stocks himself. We heard something was a-brewing in the land of video games. Who is that? Who's that Mr. Stock? Mr. Stock, please reveal yourself.
Tony Stock. I've actually never been called Mr. Stock in my real life or on the show. I always thought my name was something like StankBank or like
StankBank. It was about stink. So
Stank. Was that my name? I don't remember what my handle was.
Yeah, it was StankBank, and it would never be DankBank. Okay, that's for the highest echelon of humans.
Yeah. I guess Tony Stock is fine though. But yeah, good to be back. Sorry to the Jank for being on podternity leave. You have a pretty good benefits plan here on Super BS. That's great.
Yeah, we take care of our people. I mean, we only hand out like a meal per week because that's just what the show brings in. So we're just saying like I'm gonna give them just a meal to start, and then maybe a couple mil every week to go for. Right. But we just don't want to bankrupt the podcast. So
yeah, for sure, for the fans.
But I do want to clarify, when I said no mimas, no papas, as long as you're under the age of 69, you're welcome to listen, but I put an age filter on this episode, so nobody over the age of 69 can check that out. And actually, for the first time ever, because this was our brother from another mother living in the land down under, aka China, when we were recording Super BS back in the day. So he is here. You probably heard of him.
Context.
Do you mean the most necessary context? This is how
what
CBS
elementary school
operates.
did this guy go to? I want to know what elementary school he went to.
He was busy at elementary school when we were recording the original Super BS. I was trying to tell people why he wasn't on that episode.
This kid's
so
9.
you could explain that. He is now 16 years old because it's been that long since the original Super BS. Who are you? Reveal yourself.
I'm Max. I'm Max.
You are? We don't know anybody with real names on this podcast, Max. Maybe we should call you Mac.
Wait. Are you telling me that Tony Stocks isn't actually named Tony Stock? Is that what you're trying to tell me right now?
I'm going to have to delete this whole segment because I'm worried that people are going to think they're going to try to find his real name. They're going to dox him.
They're going to track me down.
That's what we know and love. And I brought these boys on for something special. They have a real big history with the company we're going to be talking about a lot today. Yeah, the big one. Take-Two buying Zynga, because you know you liked Farmville and you were farming on your Facebooks all day. We were all up in the video game news. So these guys have been number one Farmville ever, or Mac, as I will now call you, because we know real names.
Wait, don't we all have like A and K names? Don't we?
Unless you were what was Chunk? What was our friend's name who did video game deals? I don't even remember at this point. Anyways, it's not important. None of that's important. Okay, so Mac, doesn't matter. You love Farmville. Tell everybody about it.
Yeah. I mean, what's not to love? You're a farmer, I assume, based on the name. And I don't know. It's invigorating.
Well, it's the biggest video game deal ever, beating out the Bethesda buyout from Microsoft. Take-Two bought Zynga for $12 billion. Yes, this is the big one. This is what we're going to spend the whole time talking about. Obviously, nothing else because there's nothing more important. But I felt a real cold blizzard-like breeze that just blew over me. Did something happen to the force of video games while we were talking? Because this episode was recorded on Tuesday, but it's just going up a week and a half later. StankBank, did something happen today?
Yeah, wasn't it yesterday?
Shut up.
What day is it anyway?
It doesn't matter. People are listening to this on Wednesday, January 26th. So tomorrow.
My gosh. Oh my goodness. Well, I guess word on the Strizzy, Xbox is acquiring Activision Blizz, the 9th company ever to acquire Blizzard.
Is that actually true?
Vivendi.
Not 9th, but they've been acquired. I think this is like at least the 3rd time they've been acquired.
Yeah, Vivendi. Did they get bought out from Vivendi by Activision, or did they go back to being published or whatever, and then they got bought out.
That probably did happen at some point. I do recall that, but I don't have the full family history in front of me here.
Okay, well, that's important. I hope you get that family tree done soon. We're waiting on it on the show.
I'm gonna put it on the wall behind me. Blizzard's corporate history right behind me.
Corporate genealogy.
What do you think Activision Blizzard's worth? Like $1 billion, maybe $2 billion? I mean, this buyout couldn't have been more than Zynga.
Some of the smallest franchises amongst toddler gamers are on Activision Blizzard, so probably not worth very much.
Yeah, Mac, do you know what that was worth?
I mean, just based off of the size of the titles we're dealing with here, things like what is it? World of Warcraft?
Words.
What?
World of
Words.
World of Warcraft.
Okay.
World of Wordcraft.
World of Warcraft, that's it. And then they had a few other smaller ones. I know Korea really likes that spacecraft game. So,
yeah, Spacecraft and Spacecraft 2.
Oh, they did a sequel. Was that popular at all?
Yeah, it's pretty popular.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So
I always play the Zorks on it.
Oh, right. So, I mean, when those are the types of titles you're dealing with, you got to figure best case scenario, you're looking at like probably a $5 million deal, right?
Yeah, I think that's
$5 million. Don't
okay,
forget about Crawl of Duty, the baby themed escape from the nursery first person shooter. That's
I love
swept the cradle.
Does anyone
these
play
games
that?
More? I love these games more than the real titles that Activision Blizzard makes. A game where it's just like a MMO for what's that a popular Scrabble game? Game that came out. Words with Friends, World of Wordcraft.
World of Wordcraft. It's like a Scrabble MMO.
Oh, you don't even want to know what happens when you get those big title words. Anyways, real talk. This was a 68.7. They just missed that 69 bill. I don't know what they were thinking when they had the chance to do something with 69.
Something
in the
worth
number, but
doing.
6. Yeah, the only number worth using in life. So yeah, $68.7 billion acquisition, which is a lot of money for poor people like Microsoft. They are a very, very poor company. They just barely got the money from a bank loan. That's a joke. They're a $2 trillion company, okay? I'm going to be the serious one here since I'm dealing with jokesters right now.
$2 trillion company? That doesn't sound right.
That does, and it is.
Do we have Jamie?
Okay.
Can we get Jamie to
look where's Jamie?
Jamie, can you get on this?
Young Jamie.
We're actually that rich that we actually poached Jamie from Joe Rogan. We're a little bit bigger than the JRE, the Joe Rogan Experience.
Jamie was like, listen, Joe, it's been a great run, but the Super BS thing is really just the new up-and-comer.
I want to get on the ground floor. Yeah. Maybe one day we'll give him a spot on the show, but we'll just
They know we
that.
trust the science here, okay? So Jamie wanted to go to the place where the science is trusted. So that's my main discussion on Super BS is we're a science-based video game podcast. So Jamie wanted to come here because we could pay the big bucks. That's what making all the money right now, science-based stuff. Okay, so anyways, this is 68.7 bill. Guess where it ranks on the biggest entertainment acquisitions? This is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5.
Define entertainment, like all entertainment.
All entertainment.
Wow.
All films, TV. Which one is it?
Dang. Definitely top 10.
Okay. Yeah, you're right.
I'm gonna say entertainment. I'm gonna say number 3.
You're cheating.
Based on no research.
Cheating.
Based on zero research.
I think that guy cheated.
I just know Disney and Fox would be bigger. But go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Max Ramos.
I was probably going to say number 2.
Oh, wow.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you were wrong. Sorry, Max. Ha 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 ha. That was what I was waiting for the whole time. But no, StankBank was right. It was number 3. The AT&T buying Time Warner. Yeah, that was worth actually $1 million right there. Where everybody knows on the show we give $1 million. And StankBank was showing his Mickey getting urinated on shirt that he wears because he hates Disney so much.
Yeah, and I have small kids, and they bought that for me for Father's
Day. His
Day.
kids, but it's like really inappropriate. But Calvin peeing on the whatever is the main shirt in your family, so they're used to that type of humor, potty humor. Okay, so the number 1 is AT&T buys Time Warner. That was for $85.4 billion. 2018 numbers, bros. And then Disney buying 21st Century Fox was only bought for $2 billion more. I guess a little bit over $2 billion. $71.3 billion.
Math
is hard.
When was that one though?
That was 2019. So the wildest thing is the biggest acquisition in the video game industry before this happened last week when Take-Two bought Zynga for $12.7 billion. So it's so crazy that now the highest video game acquisition is Microsoft buying Activision Blizzard for $68.7 billion. We're talking about like 5 times that number. It's wild.
But you gotta look at the value, though. I mean, I would say that Activision Blizzard is easily worth 5 times than Zynga.
Yeah, but it's crazy to think it's worth 10 times Bethesda. Microsoft bought Bethesda in 2020 for $8.1 billion. Like,
gotta look at inflation. Gotta look at the inflation too. That definitely impacts it.
I love the idea of the inflation. Yeah, inflation did raise 10 times roughly in 2 years. Anyways, so I know you guys are big Activision fans. You hate Blizzard titles. Each of you name your 3 favorite Activision franchises. Mank, I'll start with you. Not Blizzard.
I dare you to name 3, period.
Dude, I was gonna say I'm gonna struggle with this.
Just try to give me a couple.
I mean,
non-Call of Duty.
Oh, dude, wow. I got no shot then. Activision only? No Call of Duty? I honestly don't know a game name. Is Destiny 2 one of theirs?
You got one? They sold the IP rights back to Bungie.
Okay.
So we got one. StankBank got one.
Spyro.
Tony Hawk. So we just gotta get 3. Okay, Spyro.
Yeah, I got
Bandicoot.
Nothing.
Crash Bandicoot. Okay. You got 3. Okay.
There we go.
The craziest thing is Activision's has some of the most historied IPs ever because they own Sierra, which if you remember is like the adventure games from when we were younger. They also were the people who created Pitfall. They're like one of the first Atari Nintendo games. They have Crash, Spyro, Call of Duty, Guitar Hero, Zork. What else was there? There's
Zork?
like a crazy list. Yeah, Zork. So I know this is like not the thing we intended to talk about first, but I got to get this out of the way because this is my dream. Bethesda Games Works making a new Zork game. How legit would that be? Game over games industry, #1 title ever.
Game over games industry.
That would be the #1 best-selling title ever, Zork and Zork 2. Sequels, but no, realistically, like, what do you guys think would
Zork,
be something?
the like mud text crawler, dude?
Yeah, the old one. That's Activision.
Wait, you guys aren't messing with me? These are real video game titles. Zork
Dude,
and Zork
is
2?
like
it's actually really fun.
Yeah, it's like one of the most famous games ever. It's back when you used to be able to type in like go here and do that.
We're about 15 years too young to have seriously played this game. This is like your weird uncle that none of us have saying, "Hey, check out this game when your mom's not here." It's not bad or weird or anything, but it's definitely not something we would seek out.
It's really pretty, mainly because it's a lot of graphics and animation on the screen at all time. So it's kind of R-rated or X-17 rated
provocative.
or whatever.
Oh yeah,
in the graphical realm.
Released in 1980. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much triple X rated.
-7.
Yes. Okay, so is there, before we get on to more stuff about this acquisition, is there anything that you guys want to see? I already gave you the #1 game of all time, Zork, made by Bethesda. We all know Microsoft has 1 billion dev studios, and now they have Crash, Spyro, Call of Duty, StarCraft, World of Warcraft, Diablo. What would you guys want to see happen from this?
Because of the synergy?
Yeah, because Microsoft now also owns Rare and all the Bethesda studios, so the people make Doom and Wolfenstein and the Dishonored series, and they also own the company Ninja Theory that made Hellblade and Obsidian that makes all those isometric RPGs and Fallout New Vegas. There's so many game companies now under the Microsoft banner that it's kind of wild. So is there any fun idea that you could think of for a game?
When you
pitch it.
When you prompted this, all I could think of were like cheesy things like Soul Calibur with a Mortal Kombat character in it, or like a fighting
Neither
game.
studio that they own, but I like that idea.
But like a dumb sort of Smash Bros thing where it's like that's what I was thinking of, or like putting a Call of Duty character in Heroes of the Storm by Blizzard. That I was thinking of dumb stuff like that. But maybe this also is dumb. But maybe a first-person WoW game
That could be really, really cool. It's kind of crazy they never did that though, because Call of Duty, the development teams, there's like 11 teams that Activision, or 12 studios that Activision owned, and I think 11 of them have been relegated to support staff for Call of Duty. So there are now potentially 12 development studios. There's Neversoft, Raven, Infinity Ward, which were the creators of the original Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Vicarious Visions, and Treyarch. Treyarch was the other one that did the Black Ops series. And there's several others, Beanox, a bunch of other groups. So they already had that option because they were like coalesced with Blizzard back in the day. Mm-hmm. But for me, I would love to see the Toys for Bob. They're the company that made the Spyro and Crash remakes. See them take a stab at Banjo-Kazooie, like a new Banjo game, would be just killer because Microsoft owns the rights for that. And Toys for Bob did incredible work with both Spyro Remastered Trilogy and Crash Bandicoot 4. It's actually a really good game they made last year, or 2 years ago.
Wait, is all of Rare wrapped up in this acquisition somehow? Or
Rare is owned by Microsoft from 2002.
Oh, wow. So they could... but Donkey Kong doesn't have any more Rare...
No, Donkey Kong's owned by... The character's owned by Nintendo.
Gotcha.
And so are the Donkey Kong Country games. So real quick, just so we know we've got all these studios there before we start talking about more about this acquisition, is Microsoft currently owns, before the acquisition of Activision Blizzard, they own 343 Industries, the makers of the new Halo series, Halo 4 onwards. The Coalition, which is like a that's the Gears of War studio. Compulsion Games, they made a game called We Happy Few, like a 70s BioShock-esque experience. Then they own Double Fine, the company that made Psychonauts 2, all those Tim Schafer games. Like what's the one with Jack Black where he's a metal, like he plays guitar and he runs around?
That was a fun game. I don't remember it though. The title.
So they own that company. The Initiative, which is their quadruple A studio that's supposedly working on the next Perfect Dark. In Exile, which is the group we all know from Tustin, California. They are the guys who make Pillars of Eternity.
Yep, Pillars of Eternity. Yeah. No, not Pillars of Eternity. Is it?
Oh,
In Exile.
No, they make
Wasteland.
Wasteland, and they made Numenera, I believe.
Yeah,
the Numenera game.
It's Wasteland 2, though, I believe. Wasteland 1 was.
And then they own Mojang, which is the developers of Minecraft. They own Ninja Theory, which is the Hellblade team, if you've ever played that. Good third-person action. Obsidian, we all know them. Playground Games, which makes the Forza Horizon series.
Wait, all these studios are owned by Xbox?
Yes, Xbox Game Studios.
That is insane to me. And I know we were talking before about lack of DOJ interest in the media or in entertainment, but that's just nuts. Yeah. If who else is out there? Like who else exists?
Well, so EA, which owns their own like 30 different studios.
EA is just Verizon to AT&T is Xbox. You know, there's just like 3 major studios now that own everybody.
So the one interesting thing about this, before we even get to the rest of their studios, is this only puts Xbox as a game studios, like a publishing company, whatever you want to call it, in number 3 place. They'll be, I think, $2 billion behind Sony, which is number 2, and like $15 billion behind Tencent, who owns pretty much everything in China, as well as League of Legends. So even with this acquisition, they're still not even number 2 or number 1. Right. So it may sound like a lot, but there are so many others. There's Capcom in Japan that owns like 8 different development studios. Square Enix that owns about 10 or 12. There's Ubisoft that has, I think, 30 different studios all across the world, and then EA, like I mentioned, as well as Sony's internal studios and Nintendo's internal studios. And I don't even know what Tencent owns because they own so much. I haven't really I know they own stake in Epic as well as all of Riot and a bunch of other companies. So this may sound like a lot, but compared to the other players in the space, it's not a ton. The biggest thing is they now own the most first-party studios of any of the console developers. So they own 23 going into this acquisition, which I believe brought another 12. I think Sony has something like 18. So they own nearly double the amount of development studios. So Yeah, that's why when I was saying like the fun things that could happen, there's just so much with this. But like you mentioned, you like law stuff, I think, because you're a weirdo. So what do you think could happen? I think the government likes companies to get bigger and bigger and bigger, they say, right?
Yeah, they love it. I was actually curious to hear Max Ramos's fun thing, though.
Oh,
like
yeah,
his
we didn't get a
little
chance.
wish list.
No, I mean...
Fun synergies.
I mean, frankly, I'm not familiar enough with the catalog of the games of the past that they've produced to really have like a dream scenario. And frankly, even if I were familiar, there's very few titles I'm interested in seeing revamps of. I'm more interested in. It seems like under Microsoft's direction, a lot of the studios are allowed more leeway than certainly Blizzard was under Activision, let's say. So I'm more curious to see, now that they're allowed to pursue what they want, I'm more curious to see what new titles and new content and original they come up with, right? Like it, and even I mean, I guess you could say, just to stick with something I know, right? Like there's probably very little incentive under the Activision structure to come out with Warcraft 4. It was not rumored. If anything, it was discouraged. It's like, look, guys, why are we even talking about it? It's not on the horizon. It's not public. Like, but I imagine, even with all the drama going on, there are still old school Blizzard employees there who, yeah, given their druthers, they're like, yeah, why wouldn't I want to make Warcraft 4? That'd be awesome, right?
Yeah.
So I'm excited for stuff like that. Letting them choose what they want to do. What do they go for?
So you mean Max Ramos? You're thinking of like schisming out all the various studios within Activision Blizzard, like making it just Activision and making it just Blizzard, maybe, and then giving Blizzard more direct access to Microsoft control, so it would sort of be like an independent studio within and have a little bit more leeway than it did in the current Activision Blizzard days.
Yeah, I mean, my understanding of how Microsoft operates their studios that they control, they're a lot more hands off. So yeah, like again, I'm just not familiar enough with like Activision catalog, but any of the little studios that they had picked up along the way prior to Blizzard, I see it as, yeah, everything's under this giant Microsoft umbrella now, but it functions just like every other major corporation, right? Where, I mean, they broke apart now, but it's a little out of time. But you had United Technologies, was this giant conglomerate, right? But under the umbrella of United Technologies, in the U.S. alone, you had 3 different subsets of Otis Elevators. You had 3 different mining corporations. You had 6 different industrial manufacturers, right? And each of them is making their own decisions, really, right? Like United Technologies didn't care what they were doing as long as they were profitable, right? Mm-hmm. And I sort of see it as, I think Microsoft's going to operate the same way. They're like, look, we don't really care what you guys work on. We bought you because we like your IP. We like the games you've made in the past. You seem like you're going to be profitable. Hey, as long as you're not losing us boatloads of cash, do what you want to do. That kind of seems to be their thing.
Well, why buy Blizzard now? And I have an answer to this, but I think I'm curious what you guys think. Like, why make this offer right now? What is happening at Activision and or at Blizzard that makes this acquisition so strategic today? Because these companies are both ancient in terms of video game history.
Yeah, well, I got some street scoop on that. I mean, I don't know if you guys want it, but
I probably already have it, but that's fine. You can tell.
Yeah, I mean, anyways, my best buds, Andrew Cuomo and Gavin Newsom, were telling us that one of my bros, Bobby Kotick, he was being harassed. I heard there was a lot of harassment going on there. People were asking to have his babies all the time, and it was really bad for him. So the company was in like a weird spot for about 6 months. People just kept approaching him and harassing him. And so he really wanted to get rid of the company, so he started tanking the stock. And then Microsoft thought, hey, Bobby, we see what's going on. We know you're a bro. We don't want you to be hurting no more, because he was going home crying every night. I mean, just the amount of harassment going towards him was ridiculous. He's a good guy. He's Mr. Moneyball. Yeah, really and guy. So what I heard was he wanted to get out, man, because it was just that emotionally painful every day. That mental health, it was too hard on him. I don't know if you guys heard something differently, but
I don't even know what this is referring to. I don't even know this is referring to like get at it being a joke. I don't get it at all. So maybe someone did.
Nothing happened.
I hope someone got it.
No.
But why do you guys think Xbox is buying Blizzard now?
I mean, if I had to guess, I really don't know. But I think a big factor would be these things don't happen super quickly. So I wonder how long ago this whole process started and we're just hearing about it now. Is that really
November? Yeah,
that's when they started talking about it.
Yes. So non-jokingly,
that's the fastest acquisition in the history.
Yeah, that's
of
incredibly fast.
That's not. Yeah. That's not accurate.
I mean, so non-jokingly, what I was saying was very sarcastic. Activision Blizzard has had the last 6 months of essentially turmoil because the state of California is suing them on behalf of their employees through multiple different cases, which has then tanked the stocks, which has made the board lose faith in Bobby Kotick, which has prompted this sell. Because they're all going to get a lot of money through the sale, and the likelihood was he would have been ousted out at some point because there was the stock had dropped. I think it went from like $80 or $100 to $60 in the course of like 4 or 5 months.
Or 60?
60. So like not a whole 50% drop, but it's still a large drop.
Sure.
Especially when their games, Call of Duty, even their lowest selling one this year, Vanguard, was still the highest selling game of the entire year. So it's not like this is a company that's not making money, but they had so much pressure from so many different groups that it seems like it was affecting their stock negatively. That's what I had heard, is the actual discussion started in November, and they were the idea is that these people talk all the time about acquiring others, but this was the time where it's like Bobby wanted kind of a way out because at some point the whole entire of the internet and the culture that wants to get rid of people for their actions, like if that affects your money, then it does really impact your job too. And Bobby Kotick bought Activision, so he was the owner, so he'll get a sizable chunk of this sale, from what I understand.
Well, the thing that's kind of difficult with that, to my mind, that's the impetus for this sale is like in other areas, like the one that comes to mind is like a parallel would be Bayer, the German pharmaceutical, buying out Monsanto, right? That deal was almost killed by the Roundup lawsuit that Monsanto was undergoing, right?
Okay.
Huge multi-billion-dollar payouts, right? And it almost killed the merger because Bayer was like, why are we going to eat what we're now absorbing this financial burden, legal burden, and it's an open case because now it's established that we got to pay out anytime a Roundup case comes up.
And people were eating things and absorbing poison into their bodies.
Right.
So, full circle.
Yeah.
Full circle.
So
bring that back.
Circle of life.
So I don't know. I hear like I get the whole.
It sounds short-sighted.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, because
it's not short-sighted though at all. The stock dipped considerably. They paid the lowest $68.7 billion. Sounds like a lot, but that was them paying for a 40% stock increase price over what it would have cost. And Call of Duty alone is worth. I mean, Janky and I talk about this a lot, and I've talked with you guys about it. Game Pass, which is Microsoft's real end goal with everything, is to get that on PlayStation, to get that into your TV, to get that onto Switch. If they can keep bringing these incredible first parties at a steady clip of once a month, once every 2 months, who's not going to want to pay $15 at the beginning, then $20, then $25? Netflix just raised their price to $17 a month. They originally started at $7 less than 10 years ago. All I'm saying is, like, yeah, it sounds short-sighted, but Call of Duty is the #1 best-selling game ever.
No. I'm not saying that's short-sighted. I'm saying the people caving on the Activision Blizzard side, wanting to sell their company so badly. Like, that to me doesn't seem like the only justification. Like a few weird sexual harassment lawsuits in California.
Not just a few. They're dealing with strikes. They're dealing with unionization. They're dealing with, like, so much is going on there right now. I don't even know if people are actually working there anymore because they have strike.
Yeah, well, of course they are.
All I'm saying though is they have like strikes almost every day from Raven Software because they did the normal Activision thing, which is as soon as they did their fiscal year, they laid off a lot of the contractors. So there's a group called the ABK, which is Activision Blizzard Unite Workforce, that got started, and they're building a fund there to try to unionize. I'm not saying all this stuff is right or wrong or anything. I'm just letting you know, like, there was a lot going on, and all those people wanted, their only demands were that the entire board left and that Bobby Kotick was ousted. So if you're this group and you have 10,000 employees and even 2,000 of them are trying to unionize, and somebody's offering you $68.7 billion and you're going to get 200, 300, 400 million each to leave, I think I would, and just, these are all older people too.
See, I'm actually saying I do see it as short-sighted on the part of Microsoft that they would buy it just because the stock dipped, whatever that is, 20%, right? Because
40%, yeah.
40%, sorry.
Yeah, no worries.
Just because we're at sort of the infancy of all of these lawsuits and allegations and only starting to see the repercussions of this, who knows how far this could expand. Plus, let's be real, it's the state of California. They could start issuing some wild punitives over this. Like, it could really go pear-shaped. So
yeah, but how are they going to sue Microsoft for I know you're saying that these court cases, when all of them are at Bobby Kotick as the head of Activision, and even if they do, for Microsoft, a $2 trillion company, they'll just literally be like, oh, you need $200 million to go away. There's 5,000 of you that are suing. You each want $1 million. Okay. I mean, like like Facebook and everybody else right now, the end game isn't to make money. It's like Amazon. I think they went on a 10-year loss leader where they never made money for 10 years. And now you cannot think of shopping online without thinking Amazon. I don't mean to shut you down. I just mean, like, there is a lot that's at stake. This is the biggest single video game franchise ever, Call of Duty alone, not talking about World of Warcraft or any of the other games that they're getting as kind of like a bonus. So
sure, I mean, the culpability of those lawsuits falls to the owning company, right? So Microsoft is assuming all that debt, regardless of whether it's named Kotick or not. Like, yeah. So
he might be personally liable for something, but the company is the coffer.
Sure,
that's what
they want. And it's like, it's one of those things. No matter how much money you have, no one likes shelling out a large check, right? Especially to something that they perceive they don't deserve, that they need to pay it out, or that they've been taken advantage of, or anything like that, right? So even I hear you, right? Like, Microsoft is whatever $2 trillion company. They, all these things. They're still not going to love the prospect of, okay, great, we got a cheaper deal on acquiring all this IP and games, but potentially we're looking in the market of 500 mil to maybe $1 billion worth of damages over the next few years. Result that's a big hindrance. Like, that puts people on pause, because that's, in some sense, and I know it's hard to perceive this from us in our chairs, but
I'm standing. I'm at a standing desk.
Sorry, of course.
I'm actually lording over people.
Oh, shoot.
I don't actually say I lord over people.
But there is, as much as we see it as, and there's even data to support that, like, yeah, Call of Duty is a safe investment. It is not a guarantee. Those legal fees are a guarantee. So it's like, I don't know. I just, and again, I'm not in the company. I don't know exactly what's going on, what fueled it, and everything. But I am dubious that the reduction in stock price as a result of recent malfeasance is the key incentive to this merger.
Yeah, I agree with that. Online activism is here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah. Tony Stark, you seem to love legal stuff.
I love it so much.
I don't even know why. You have nothing to do with it. You work at a GameStop as a head GameStop guy.
Oh,
and you don't actually work there. You stand around there offering game advice to people at GameStop, hoping that people buy you games.
GameStop.
GameStop.
Oh, that's what I thought his name meant by stock, right? They're stocking the shelves of GameStop. right?
Oh yes, that is.
I'm wearing one of those like back brace things right now.
Right.
Just like those like
well, because you're standing up.
Thingies. Well, yeah.
If people's main complaints, though, their legal main complaints were issued primarily at a set group of people, they were saying these people harassed them, these people did this, and then when you took over the company, which is already the big rumor from Bloomberg, is they've already agreed that Bobby and the rest of the group will leave as soon as the acquisition happens. And mind you, we're talking about the stuff, the news got announced recently, the acquisition may not clear till June 20th of 2023, the end of Microsoft's 2023 fiscal year.
Sure.
So what grounds or what can they do if all of their things that they want to complete are met? Like how do they pursue that? You know what I mean? If like literally their demands were, we want to get rid of these people are bad, we want a little bit of money, and then you in 1 year you take over and like, oh hey, we're the new bosses, we got rid of all of those people. Well, you know, what happens at that point? That's what I'm getting at. That's why I think it was actually the best situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think I need you to break that down for me a little bit more. So can you like put some peoples and the theys and the thems and all that stuff and just say like who's doing what?
I don't know the names of the board, and I stayed out of a lot of this discussion pre this acquisition.
But
just
you're talking about it from the point of from the developers who are striking, right? That's what you're talking about?
I'm talking about it from whoever is trying to unionize right now. I don't know who they are. Like they're just some devs, some probably HR reps, some social media managers.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
I would say to that that may be the villain of the moment, but those demands don't go away just because the villain has changed, as it were, right? Like there's always going to be a tension between employee and employer. So yeah, Kotick is not the most beloved human.
Well, but I know, but some of these are like, these people raped me. Like they can't leverage that against Phil Spencer. You know what I mean? Like the head of Xbox, they can't go like, hey, here's the room. And a lot of this stuff has been documented that there was like a special room they had at the Blizzard offices or blah, 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 where this one guy date raped a bunch of people. Anyways, I don't know. I've tried to stay out of this stuff. But what I'm saying is when those people are gone, how do you leverage that against a different person who wasn't even a part of it? That's all I mean is like, this is a purchase thing.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I think we're getting in the weeds a little bit here, but I think it's very easy to change the target of that. Like very easy, where he goes, well, in an effort to, now that we're under new management, like thankfully those people are gone, but how do we guarantee this from happening again? We need assurances that look like X, Y, and Z. We need union and representation that look like X, Y, and Z. It ends up becoming an almost worse fiasco at that point when you don't have the same guy to aim all your vitriol at, right?
All I'm saying is Microsoft now owns 34 studios, and they have none of these issues with their 23 previous studios. So you could be.
I don't know about that.
That we know of,
true.
right? That we know of. You're right. That we know of. Maybe tomorrow it will come out and say, "Hey, this person did all this bad stuff to me." You know what I mean? But
I'd say it's a cost of doing business in the video game world. Like the video game industry is very woke, and all the folks who are working at these places are younger.
Well, so are we. We're young and woke.
Yeah,
so
super
just,
young and woke.
You should say us.
Live in urban centers with purple hair.
I
just think it's a cost of doing business. But were you earlier asking Brian about how these people might have the power to blow up the deal or something like that? I'm
asking what can they do? So after Microsoft acquires the studios in 2023. And they oust all these people, which is the very long...
When Microsoft leadership kicks out the current executive staff of Activision Blizzard, which is something they would probably do anyways.
Yes, correct. I'm not saying it's because of any of this stuff. I'm just saying this is what the plan is, it sounds like. What can those people who are trying to say, hey, I work at Activision Blizzard, the CEO knew about this, which is the issues they have with Bobby Kotick, he did not do this. Like, how can they keep suing them? I think that's why I don't
you sue people for past conduct. You don't sue people for current ongoing conduct. So in the case of a harassment suit, you would sue a company or a group of people or a person for pervasive sexual conduct or creating a sexual atmosphere, quid pro quos and those sorts of things. And you would sue for conduct that occurred between 2013 and 2021 or whatever the period is. it doesn't matter if your issue has been resolved. That is helpful for putting a bookend on your litigation, on your complaint, but it doesn't change the fact that you were harmed from here to here, and you need to be made whole. You need remediation. You need recompense, or whatever R word you want to use right there.
Well, I like a lot of R words.
Careful with the R words there, bro.
Analropist. I'm an analropist.
Analropist.
It wasn't the pronunciation that scared me, or what does Buster say there?
Yeah.
It wasn't the spelling that. Whatever.
Well, anyways, there's still so much more about this, and this is the thing none of us really know about is the workplace stuff. So we can move on from that a little bit, unless you guys want to come back. But
when I worked there, it was like so cool.
Were you just handing out video games there too? And then you got demoted to GameStop?
I got a lot of free video games when I worked there. But no, it was like the one thing that bothered me the most about it was how nice everybody was. Like you couldn't actually get any
especially
work
Bobby.
done. You couldn't get any work done because everyone was always like playing video games or like chatting or just like having a great old time. I worked in the legal department. It was a little bit more insulated from that, but everywhere else it was like working at your high school and you knew and loved everybody at your small private high school. That's how it felt.
To be fair, though, Blizzard, which is the company we're talking about, part of Activision and Blizzard, they have changed so much. You could see it just by the fact that all of their leadership left. Like from what the story was, Activision corporate structure kind of snuck in and crept in and took over. That's what old Mank was saying about how Microsoft gives more autonomy to the dev teams. You know what I mean? It's that's all I mean is like I don't know what it's actually like there. I have no clue. I'm not going to tell these people that they're wrong or lying or whatever. I don't care about the lawsuits. I, as the consumer of video games and like a fan of Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo, and I like Game Pass because I get a bunch of games that come out. I look at this as just this is a wild thing because in the history of video games, we have never seen this large of an acquisition. It would be essentially similar if Nintendo had bought out Sega at some point. You know what I mean? Like that, like weird, this giant behemoth that we used to buy their things is now owned by another. Call of Duty, I bought about 6 years of that game every year. And from Modern Warfare. Yeah, it does suck for me. I wish I could buy more of their games. Now I get them for free. No. But anyways, one really interesting piece of this news is that this deal, it affected Sony in such a weird way. Their stock dropped $20 billion the day after the acquisition went through in Tokyo, which I thought is interesting and a sign of what people really think the war is, which is a content-based war. We're talking about a console and a manufacturer, Microsoft, who has never been known for their exclusives, for their IPs, for their franchises. Besides Halo and Gears of War and Forza, could you even tell me anything else that they make that's not
Windows.
Bethesda? Yeah, but game-wise, could you tell me another game that they made?
No.
Mank? You can't, right?
I didn't know any of the games you just listed, so I don't know.
You don't know Halo? Yeah, you liar. Guys, we got a man on the street on for this episode. I apologize. He's never even heard of what a video game is. What's an Xbox? But anyways, so like the fact is they now have all of Bethesda and a bunch of these other studios, and they're really creating a compelling service that you spend $15 a month on, and you get these games that can be played on your phone or your TV or your computer or your Xbox if you want. And I just think this whole thing, taking away all the Activision and all the other problems or the reasoning behind it, or the reasons why the stock might have tanked or why they chose now, it to me seems like such a good idea. I don't know what your guys' overview take of this whole thing is. You want to share it with me, old Stanky?
My view on the financial viability of the acquisition by Microsoft and like from a strategic standpoint, does it make sense and is it a good deal regardless of the price?
Yes, both that and like, do you think it would change your opinion if you were to go out and buy tomorrow a Series X or a PS5? Would this acquisition change your mind? Would you maybe...
Oh. I mean, I think you're asking the wrong guy because I don't particularly go out for console gaming. I do own an Xbox, and I am glad that I do. but I've never been a big Sony person. But I think if I were more in the console world, it would be a nice win to have Xbox over Sony right now, because there's a chance now that I might be able to play Hearthstone on my Xbox on my couch. That is something that I've been wanting to do for forever, and I think that sounds amazing. And I think the same goes for any Blizzard property that I really love. I only really talking about Blizzard games, but yeah, I think that sounds cool. Whether or not it justifies a $20 billion stock drop at Sony, I think that's a little nutty, but I don't know.
Real quick on that, because this was a thought I had earlier. You touched on like that you're only really talking about Blizzard and all this, like that it keeps defaulting to Blizzard.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's just our bias because those are the games we've played or not. Maybe our esteemed host has different insight. But I sort of see it as the biggest winner out of being acquired by Microsoft is Blizzard, right? Because in some sense, Call of Duty and what I know of the other Activision titles, I don't know that they were ever really known for being innovative or like really redefining a genre or do you know what I mean? Like so I don't know that
not anymore. Maybe back in the day, Call of Duty 1 or in Modern Warfare 1 and 2.
Or I mean, Guitar Hero. You guys remember Guitar Hero
sure,
and how important that was.
I know what you're saying though. Like Blizzard is known for its just being a leading edge designer and making games that revolutionize the industry.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I think
I know what you mean.
Yeah, so they suffered disproportionately by having finances become the end all be all, right? Like having quarterly reports earning define their creativity. I think they're the ones that suffered the most as a result. And I think in some sense that's why everything I've seen on this since the news drop has almost always been through the lens of talking about Blizzard and all of this. Even though it's an Activision Blizzard acquisition, everyone ends up talking about Blizzard out of it. Because, I mean, their track record is impeccable, right? Like World of Warcraft defined, gaming to this day in some sense, right?
Yeah, most people played it, which is so funny how, like, most people played it even though they were gamers. Like, I remember my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, even made a character on World of Warcraft, like just for the hell of it. Like I'll try smoking weed in college or whatever. It's like that. I'll try playing World of Warcraft with my boyfriend.
Yeah. Well, also another thing to remember is if this sale wouldn't have taken place and say Activision was in dire straits and say Tencent wouldn't have been the other purchaser and it was Sony in its place, you might not be able to play these games even on PC. They might have removed them from that marketplace or the future iterations.
That'd be the dumbest thing.
Yeah,
that would be so dumb, though.
I mean, I know you guys say that's the dumbest thing, but this is a content war. Now, what Microsoft has bought with this is not only does it have all these games on PC, which is run, normally most people use Windows, their operating platform, but now if you pay $15 a month, you'll get every single one of the newest Blizzard, Activision games for free with their service. And then maybe for like World of Warcraft, maybe you'll also get a WoW sub for that. And you'll get, the new Halo and Total War, Warhammer 3, and all the other games we won't even have a chance to talk about today.
This is conjecture, though. This is your hypothesis.
Well, no, Total War, Warhammer 3 is a day one Game Pass game. And all of these other things is what Microsoft has said. Every single first-party game that they release are going to go to Game Pass for free day one. Now, do I know that the World of Warcraft subscription will be put into it? No, but I have no doubt in my mind that Diablo 3, Diablo 2, every previous Call of Duty, every Spyro game, and every Crash game will be part of Game Pass within the next 2 years. Because they've done that for every Bethesda game and every Rare game and every one of their previous companies that they purchased.
How many sub games have they done it for?
Sub? Well, this is the first sub game that anybody owns. So we'll see if that happens.
I am kind of interested by that idea because I like that hypothetical you threw out of like, let's say Sony had purchased them as opposed to Microsoft. Like the argument that they would then endeavor to move all of those properties off of PC, right? Like to me, that sounds absolutely preposterous and just leaving untold sums of money on the table, killing a fan base, destroying goodwill, all these things. But it is interesting that as gaming has become like a real industry with real corporations, real interests, right? Real finances behind it, they start operating like all other areas of the market too, right? Well, market.
Which has a problem. But there's a problem because video games are crossing the medium between art and business, and sometimes the art part gets left on the cutting room floor. And I think I'm hoping, like you were saying earlier, Max, that Blizzard is kind of left to run, and maybe they don't put a title out every year, right? Maybe it takes 3 years to put out a Blizzard expansion. But I would love to see Blizzard restored to its former glory days, and a ton of people have left Blizzard. We were talking about the executives, but a ton of creatives have also left Blizzard to go to Dreamhaven, that new Blizzard-run studio, which I'm super excited about. I can't wait to see what they put out.
They did. There's another one. Frost Giant Studios is another one just like that. They're focusing mostly on RTS, I believe. But that's promising. That's like Blizzard's bread and butter back in the day, right? So
totally.
You get
I think what is going to happen, and I wish we could do even longer episodes, but we're all big boys and we got big boy lifestyles, okay? So we're going to have to be wrapping up soon. But I think this is one of those types of acquisitions because of how powerful it is. And even before this happened, we had spoken about discussing Blizzard games as well as the games coming in 2022. This is such a big thing that there was no need to talk about other games coming in 2022 at this moment. That could be done later. But this acquisition will still be discussed in the future, too, because next time you hear E3 or Microsoft, BlizzCon will be brought to mind because they'll maybe not this current year, but the following one, because Blizzard games will be on the table, too. Will they keep BlizzCon? Who knows? But Blizzard is a fracture of what they used to be. So I think the future only looks brighter here because Microsoft has a lot of money. So if they want to let them make games, they have infinite backing, as we've seen with Psychonauts 2 and all the other studios that they purchased, and let spend 3+ years on titles that will not make them nearly any money just to build out this Game Pass service. Those games came out and were excellent. So anything you guys want to add before we start hitting the dusty trail?
I'm sad we didn't get to talk about Super Auto Pets.
It's not a game, so it's fine. Nobody cared.
No, excuse me, sir. Super Auto Pets, best game of 2022. Changed my mind.
2022. I thought it was a 2021 favorite game. Oh, now you're a liar.
No. 2021. It was a lock. It was a shoo-in. But I'm just saying, it was so defining for the gaming universe that it deserves a back-to-back. Why not?
I agree. My kids love it, dude. Levi came in my office today while I was working, and he goes, "I want to play horse game."
Horse game.
Super Auto Pests is the worst pest removal game that exists, and you can't change my mind on that. We will probably be bringing you boys back. Hopefully, you guys can join when the big boy Jank returns, but he might be out for maternity leave for a hot minute. So he's a mother. So I just want you guys to know he did that step.
Very 2022 of him.
Glad we're going there in the last second of our podcast.
Well, I wanted him to hear this. I wanted him to know I appreciate his motherhood and all he's done. Amen.
Amen.
Oh, yeah.